Hello, I am joined by Rory Green from Enlighten the Shadows, and we're just going to have a little catch up today, aren't we, Rory? Going to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
So, what is Enlighten the Shadows, and how did it begin?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here, and I don't take lightly any time when I'm asked to share what Enlighten the Shadows is or what we do. And I say we because it did start with one, and we've grown quite well in the last couple of years. So ultimately, what we are, so we're a men's mental health group. We can support any man who's basically struggling, as simple as that. Whatever their needs are, whether they're feeling a bit anxious or slightly depressed through circumstances, especially at certain times that we're living in, or it can be as much as they're at a crisis point where they're suicidal and they simply don't want to be around anymore. So we've got a team of guys that kind of like specialize in helping men in that way and breaking the barriers and normalizing the fact that, look, if you're struggling with how you feel, that's totally all right. And that's the thing, we're constantly chipping away at society and all of the structures and the social impact that we've had on men for hundreds of years ultimately. So our main goal of it all is to prevent male suicide. Sadly, 4,303 men died by suicide. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under 45, and literally 3/4 of suicides are men. So it's 100% preventable, and so that's what we do. Just quickly, what we operate in is kind of online through support private group on Facebook. So if you go on groups, type in Enlighten the Shadows, you'll find us. And then also we do a YouTube channel where it's like a podcast. So we talk about all sorts of life issues, whether that's finances, addiction to alcohol, cocaine, breaking down emotions, particularly anger. There's loads of episodes we've done. We're on about 58 now almost, plus about 13 special episodes and 2 live. So yeah, we've done quite a bit. A heck of a journey so far. I say so far because I'm going to do it till the day that I die, or God tells me otherwise. Like, I can't change part of my past and my tapestry of what God's allowed me and guided me and helped me through. And I know what it's like to be in that really dark place. I know what it's like to feel utterly suicidal, which has its stigma even with the church confines. So yeah, it's not a project, if that makes sense. It's not a project to me. It's life. It's part of who I am. And so yeah, I hope that answers the question. It's quite
Yeah,
detailed.
it's great. And I can completely relate. That I've sort of been on my own mental health journey and stuff the last few years as well. But so, although Enlighten the Shadows isn't a faith-based group, you are a follower of Jesus. You've already kind of mentioned your faith, and we used to go to church together, so I know that. What's been your experience of mental ill health within the church, and how do you think churches and individuals could better walk alongside those who are struggling?
Yeah, before I do say anything, I'm going to be very clear. Nothing of what I say is like kind of coming from a critical spirit or like kind of shining a light on certain churches or ministries. Nothing of the kind. Like the churches and the ministries I've been in, the overall banner and the vibe that I have and the heart that I have for those people and those communities is brilliant. However, if we're to make church accessible and make church feel like home, there's a lot to be done, like a heck of a lot. I think there's a big kind of chasm between mental health awareness and the sufferings of this world, and how to be empathetic and compassionate. Like the things that I'm going to kind of break down is absolutely paramount to how Jesus walked the earth. And then you've got like the spirituality side, which is kind of like dismissive and admonishes the process, that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, absolutely we fear no evil. And we talk about that his rod and his staff comfort me. My cup overflows. I see it in the presence of my enemies, as I'm referring to Psalm 23. But over here we have, Joseph, Elijah, David, Jonah, Job. I didn't even have to think. There's 5 people in the Bible instantly who we read about their life and the destruction that they go through, and we don't actually sit and realize that they were utterly suicidal. Most of them actually said it. I think all of them said it actually. Probably get a rebuke from someone, but I certainly have, because I relate to them. And what we do is we go on to the next bit, because we want to hear the end and how the blessing comes and how God takes them to overcome. But what we don't appreciate is these are mighty men, and Esther was a mighty woman of God, that she probably felt certain feelings too in that sense. But we hold them in such high esteem, but do we really value and sit and identify that they had mental health battles? We don't banner it that way, because the language has changed over thousands of years. But what hasn't changed is suicide ideation, ultimately, that when it's wanting to die and not be around anymore because it's too much for them. So there's so much to be done in terms of the language we use, the declarations, the sweeping statements that people say. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it's from a good place, but I mean, some of the stuff that I and my wife have been told, especially when we lost our baby, like the potential damage. I'm not saying the damage, because we were able to kind of be gracious and thank God, because it was his help to be mature enough to see through it. Whereas some people aren't at that place, and I'm not saying I'm better than them, but some people are just in so much pain that they'll see red mist when they see that, and it's enough to walk out of a church, it's enough to distance themselves or isolate themselves from certain people or the whole church.
So how can people connect with Enlighten the Shadows and kind of take that step towards real talk, real men? I love that from your website.
Yeah. Well, we call it that because we don't edit anything. We don't cotton wool it. We say it how it is. And I think that's what men want, and I think that's what men are looking for. And I think particularly in the church, that's what men are looking for, because we don't call it out for what it is. There's men suffering in silence for many valid reasons, for fear of appearing weak. That's even in the the non-Christian realms of life, but also not being spiritual enough, not praying enough, not reading your Bible enough. It's nonsense. Like I couldn't have been in more faith than ever in my life. I've seen God use me to get a woman out of a wheelchair who hadn't walked for 7 years walking. I've seen a guy, his neck pop out from prayer. God using me in that way through his power, through specialists that could never help him for 3 years. But yet, when I'm praying and having such faith that my baby would live, and then it literally died, it's you'll be very careful what you're saying to people about people. So, we're very passionate about that balance that I kind of referred to in the last question. But to access us, there's so many different kind of checkpoints, because we appreciate it's not easy for men. So, first off, I referred to earlier is on media online. So we've got the YouTube channel. You don't even have to interact. We can't know who's watching the videos. We know the numbers. We don't know, who's watching from where, unless they comment in the section below or they subscribe. But even then, you can use an anonymous account name. So there's a good anonymity, which helps the intensity of the first step, right? Which is the hardest, which is to actually accept that you're struggling, because the denial is really strong in that point. And I think if you can get to acceptance through watching videos, we on the sly on the screen below, we invite people to email us. So that's enlightenthesh1@gmail.com. Our website goes up there, which is www.enlightentheshadows.org. You can message us through that way. We're on social media. We even not only have Twitter and Instagram DMs, but we've gone as far as going on the TikTok world, because there's people on there that might not be elsewhere. There's the Facebook private chat group, which is wow, that's where all the magic happens. I'm allowed to say that word, but yeah, where all the dynamic encounters happen because there's men opening up about a plethora of issues. You know, partners and wives using their children as weapons against them, and court issues, addictions to pornography, sexual anxiety, even things that we're trying to grow and develop in, domestic abuse victims. You know, a lot of the things I mentioned, people don't want to talk about, people don't want to say, and that's again back to the real talk, real men. We're there dealing with real life issues that don't want to be kind of shine light on. They're hidden in the shadows, and that's why we're calling light the shadows. We're shining that light, and it is the light of Jesus ultimately, you know, the truth on it, so you can find it. So there's so many ways people can access our services, and it's important because there's people using different things. And so one day we'll get to a phone line when we grow further. We've got the infrastructure and obviously a text message service, because that's one thing we've got our eyes on. So yeah, lots of things.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And we'll include the links kind of on the website and stuff when we put this video up, so
great.
people can find you. The website's got some great dad jokes on it as well that I was really enjoying the other day. So
oh yeah, and
as
the
an aside
section. Yeah,
that's great. Fab. Thank you, Rory, so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. All right.